It's chocolate, fresh out of a 3D printer. That's kind of amazing, but I've got questions like, can the mycusini 2.0 provide more than just amazement? Will it fall apart like the mycusini 1.0 that I unboxed? Is it actually practical to 3D print with chocolate? How expensive is it to run? And the most important one, am I going to miss the shout out to today's sponsor, JLC PCB? Definitely not. You've seen JLC PCB's PCB and SMD assembly service before, but they've now also launched their 3D printing service where you can order custom parts printed in high detail resin or even out of full color nylon. If you have an application where your own printer can't quite deliver what you need, this can be a great backup to extend your capabilities. Of course, they still offer their fantastic PCB prototyping service and SMD assembly, starting from $2 plus shipping for 5 PCBs and no setup fees for the SMD assembly. Check them out at the link in the description below. So this is the mycusini 2.0 from Print for Taste, a German company that's actually less than an hour away from me. They've been around for a while. At first, they've been making prosumer or professional level machines with the ProCusini lineup, which they still make, and they're on Gen 5 of their printer-bot-esque platform. It actually used to be real modified printer bots, but those don't exactly exist anymore, so they're now making their own. But what the mycusini is a venture to home and, let's say, pastry enthusiast users with a machine that has a stronger focus on ease of use and, of course, a lower price. Let's start with the disclosure. Print for Taste sent me this machine and the materials for review. They didn't charge me anything for it, but I will need to send it back when I'm done testing it. As always, no money changed hands, there's no requirement for me to cover the machine at all, and Print for Taste are not getting any influence on the content that I do make on the mycusini. The way the mycusini and ProCusini work is with these plastic wrapped Choco sticks as your print stock. They make them in dark chocolate color, white, blue, pink, and for the mycusini you cut these sausage packs in half and slap them into this stainless steel syringe shell, which then goes into the heater element, and that itself gets coupled to the printer. So in here, the only thing that your chocolate material ever touches is the very bottom of that stainless syringe core. Further up, you've got a plastic plunger that presses down, but because you leave the plastic wrapper around the Choco sticks in place, that creates an additional barrier. And ideally, once it's used up, you can just pull that wrapper clean out, plop a new half pack in, and you're ready to go again with minimal cleanup. Unlike in a filament-based plastic printer where you're only heating a very minimal amount of your feedstock right before you use it, in the mycusini, you're always heating up the entire load to an even temperature before you can print with it. For the actual printing, the machine comes with over 1,000 pre-sliced and pre-tested files on the included SD card, and the extra booklet is a really nice touch. These are all photos, real photos of those prints, and it's just a lot nicer to browse through that and pick out a file than having to click through the touchscreen menu. You can absolutely slice and process your own files for the mycusini. Not only are all these files actually just standard G-code, so you could super easily create your own slicer profiles, but there's also a set of simple online tools that let you generate your own letterings or slice 3D files like with any other 3D printer. It's all web-based, so you don't need to install anything to your system, but it's also very toned down to just the bare essential settings and tools to get prints done. It works, and it's pretty easy to use. The rest of the printing process is actually super simple too. You wait for the cartridge to heat up, then prime the nozzle, and then there's no leveling or anything, it just prints. You get these silicone baking mats to print onto, and they're both tacky, as you can see. So bed adhesion, like in a normal 3D printer, isn't going to be a problem at all. But also, they're flexible, so removing the rather fragile prints without breaking them is totally possible, which I don't think it would be with a rigid bed surface where you'd have to chisel them off. So, prints. They're pretty good. For what this is, with a syringe-style extruder and a 1mm nozzle built in, I think the parts come out rather nicely. Look, I tried to grab as many video clips as I could before the parts got eaten, but that kind of is their purpose, so I don't have too many prints left to show off on the bench today. We're going to get into the print quality and what it can and cannot do in a bit, but I first want to get into usability a bit, coming from both my perspective of someone being quite familiar with the tech and my mom's perspective, who watched the unboxing live stream and immediately went, mine, mine, mine. So she's not quite as tech savvy, but still knows her way around stuff pretty well. So the feedback I got from her intensely using the mycusini 2.0 over Christmas was really valuable here. The bottom line here was, it's a great tool. It does exactly what it says it does, but there are a lot of super obvious things that could just be better and would make using the mycusini more efficient, easier, or just more fun. I've got a couple of points that fit the "this is great, but" scheme, so let's do that. Starting with the new interface with a touchscreen and print previews. This is a lot better than the click wheel and text LCD setup they had in the previous mycusini 1.0. And it does a great job of giving you just the tools you need to run the machine and leaving out everything else. But it's super obvious that this isn't a very polished interface yet. Scrolling through print folders with the 1,000 pre-sliced parts is tedious, especially since there's no quick reprint button after a print has finished. And all the print files print one part at a time instead of, filling up the plate with multiple parts. And details like priming the nozzle before a print are mildly confusing, as it's not clear whether you're supposed to tap the prime button or hold it. And then, because the firmware has a command buffer, like any other printer, there's a noticeable delay between you doing something and the printer responding. It can be quite confusing to understand what you're actually doing on the printer. Oh, and the touchscreen menu also randomly froze a couple of times, requiring a hard reset of the printer. It never affected a print, but that's something that shouldn't happen in a finished unit. Then the printer's hardware, right? The mycusini 2.0 is a massive step up from the 1.0. It now feels sturdy and intentional instead of being a super generic plastic cuboid that the 1.0 was. The extruder mechanism was working well for me, and the machine even has some nice touches like the easily removable print platform that slides in the frame itself. These right here, these are the linear guides, and it is coupled to the y-axis motion with a magnet. Makes cleaning a lot easier, though you probably still shouldn't drop the platform into your dishwasher, as the bearings of the open build style rollers won't quite be the same after that. And as far as the hot pink outside goes, I like this color. It's also available with a more muted black or gray shell if you don't love this look. But the new hardware isn't perfect. The fitment of the individual plastic panels is not spectacular, and honestly, this isn't a huge deal, but what I find is a huge deal is this power plug that uses the same power supply with an inline switch as the older mycusini 1.0, but then it's also got a separate power switch on the machine itself, which to me is also wired backwards, where you press the side that does not have the power LED to turn the printer on. The real problem, though, is that the power plug is not locking, and on more than one occasion, I've caught it just before it fell out. If you move around the machine or the cable at all, yeah, you can see that this just wants to come out. Yeah, this plug just will work itself loose and sooner or later ruin a print. My solution was some simple gaff tape on the back here, but that just shouldn't be necessary. Then the chocolate extrusion system, or technically, this isn't even chocolate, this is fat glaze, Fettglasur, since these Choco sticks do contain cocoa powder, all of them, even the white ones, but no cocoa butter. So technically, they're not actually chocolate, but when used as intended, you'd be hard-pressed to notice the difference. Like you're not going to take a bite straight out of the refill stick. It's always going to be used as fine printed text as decoration, or in another way where you're not going to be eating it just by itself. But back to the extrusion system. I think it's a good setup. All but the very basic printer package include an extra one of these syringe sleeves, so you can keep two different materials loaded up without having to take out a partially used sausage pack, or you can chuck one in the dishwasher while you use the other. Remember, these and the removable silicone baking mats are the only things in this printer the Choco material touches. The way you load new material is by taking one of these sticks, cutting them in half, and then slugging one into the syringe sleeve. The Pro Cassini printers take a full stick as far as I can tell, but the mycusini has a small extruder that can only take half of that. You leave the plastic foil on, and once the stick is used up, that's all that's left to be pulled out of the syringe sleeve. What I did run into as a downside of using half sticks is that there is no mid-print refill option at all. The printer will tell you how much of the stick you have left and how much material a specific print will use, but when it uses up a stick mid-print, it just aborts. So there's no way to complete a print that will use, say, 15% of a half stick when you've only got 12% left in the machine. You're gonna have to throw out those 12% and load up a completely new half stick. Also, when you want to print something larger that uses more than the half stick you can load at a time, you just can't. You're going to have to split that part into multiple separate prints. What you get as far as print quality with this, or at least the visual appeal of printed parts, is quite impressive to me. I guess because the prints do look the right amount imperfect and organic for being foodstuff, while still being faithful and accurate to what you're intending to print. The motion system is pretty good too, and super snappy on travel moves, so stringing isn't much of a problem. But as you may have guessed, flow control out of a syringe extruder like this isn't the best, so parts with lots of small details are still going to be quite a bit of a challenge. Because the Shoko doesn't need to be heated very far to become printable, the nozzle tip and the finished parts are always safe to the touch. You'll never get burned if you touch or handle any of the parts. But what is definitely missing on the printer is some sort of a part cooling fan, especially given that the mycusini comes with files that are impossible to print without one or without some other form of cooling. This Eiffel Tower, I guess, is the classic example for that. And while with a bit of imagination, sure, you can still make it out, it's not exactly a faithful representation. One cool thing though is that the printer needs no bed leveling or anything. As far as I can tell, there's no sensor for that. It just comes pre-leveled from the factory, and because it uses that rather large nozzle and that silicone mat that has a slight texture to it, it doesn't matter if the nozzle is a bit closer or a bit further away on the first layer, the prints still come out great. But if needed, there is a service port on the side that still allows for adjusting the nozzle distance. The only reliability issues I've had with the machine were with the dark Shoko sticks, which repeatedly had under extrusion problems, while the white, blue, and pink ones were all perfectly fine. I'm willing to write this off as a bad batch of material with, I don't know, too much cocoa powder in it or something. I don't think that this is something that everyone will run into, but it's always with reviews, I never just want to sweep stuff under the rug because, hey, maybe somebody else has the same issue and then we've already got 2 data points. Now, while all this about the machine might sound a bit rough, if we come to the core question of does the mycusini 2.0 work and is it fun to use, I'd go with a definitive yes. Sure, there are plenty of rough edges and bits that feel unfinished, but when it comes to the core functionality and the core use cases that you actually be using this thing for, it totally works. And that took me a while to realize. You're not going to use the mycusini for the same types of prints as you would on a machine that prints with plastic. So here, even though the mycusini is advertised being able to do full 3D parts like the Eiffel Tower or other intricate decorations, I think its strength and actual use case is going to lie more in the realm of simpler 2.5D decorations or letterings, maybe some praline shells, which mycusini actually make fillings for, but rarely, I think, would you actually be doing full 3D parts, which is where the mycusini does struggle a bit. So it's really about knowing what you're intending to do with it, and if that use case fits, it does work great. Lastly, a quick overview of what this entire experience costs as far as the machine and the consumables go. The printer itself, depending on which package you get with extra materials and stuff, is between 800 and 900 euros with tax. And then the Shoko consumables are about 5 euros per 100 grams. And yeah, none of this is exactly cheap, but I also don't think it's unreasonable. You're not getting this to print customized chocolate sprinkles for your morning cereal. I mean, you could, and if you want to do that, I totally support you in that. But reasonably, this is something for special occasions, special projects, or small jobs you're taking on. And for that, I think the mycusini 2.0 is already a good solution as is, even though there's still lots to be done to make it a great one. That's it for this one. I hope you found the review helpful or at least interesting. If you did, I'd appreciate a thumbs up, get subscribed if you want to see more like it, and if you really love what I'm doing, maybe consider supporting the channel directly through Patreon or YouTube memberships. Thank you all for watching, keep on making, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!